In the first book, in the Jumbies, I inserted in a very small way, this idea that the way that the people came to the island was off of these slave ships. And it's Severine who is the one who reveals this to Colorin in the first book. And I didn't touch on it very much because I wasn't sure I could get away with it. I wasn't sure that this was a topic that one could broach in a book for very young kids. And nobody batted an eye. You know, nobody said anything about it, one way or the other. So with Rise, I decided, well, now's my chance. You know, nobody said anything. I'm gonna really, really go there in a big way. But again, with something like that, with a horror really, like the transatlantic slave trade, that is an extremely difficult thing to try to broach with third graders. These are kids who are really young. Like, how do you bring that up? And I had the idea of using the mermaids as the vehicle for talking about it. So you have these gorgeous, magical creatures, and I build it into their sort of backstory that this is how they came to be, that this is the thing that has created them. They have come from this horror, but they are now these beautiful creatures. And I thought that was a really good way to do it. And even though that is still a sort of smallish part of Rise, because it takes place mostly in the middle of the story, and the story is still mostly about Colorin and her friends and their quest and dealing with Jumbies and so on. But having that little moment with the mermaids was probably the biggest part for me, and it was also, for sure, the most difficult to write. Just those pieces with the mermaids were just the hardest, because it was just so emotional for me. And I also wanted to make sure that I did a good job doing it, that, you know, I was careful about the words that I chose and even how long I went on about it, you know, like trying to make sure that it is the right amount of talking about it, not going on too long so that it becomes too big of a thing for the story, but not having it to be too short and then it's kind of a throwaway. So that part, even though it's sort of a small arc within the larger arc of the story, was really the hardest for me to write in every possible imaginable way. It also took me the longest to write those pieces than any other part of the book.